Have you ever looked down at your feet and noticed something strange? A little numbness, a burning sensation, a wound that seemed to take forever to heal, and thought, it's probably just age. What if I told you that your feet may be revealing signs of diabetes years before a blood test ever does? And what if one of those signs is something you've already experienced this week? Most people believe diabetes is discovered only after a lab test. But after more than 20 years of working with patients, I've learned something very different. Your body often starts sending warning signals long before the diagnosis arrives. And one of the first places those signals appear is your feet. A few months ago, I met a 7-year-old retired man who came in for a routine checkup. He felt healthy. He stayed active. He wasn't worried about diabetes at all. But during our conversation, I asked him a simple question. Have you noticed anything unusual about your feet? He paused and said, well, they've been a little numb for a while, but I figured that's just part of getting older. That one sentence changed everything. His blood work later showed a fasting blood sugar of 214. He had diabetes, and based on his symptoms, it had likely been developing for years. The scary part? His feet had been warning him the entire time. And that's exactly why I'm making this video. Today, I'm going to show you 9 signs that diabetes may already be showing up in your feet. For each sign, I'll explain what most people think it means, what's actually happening inside the body, and one simple habit that may help protect your health present. But stay with me until the end, because the final signs are the ones most people never notice, and they can reveal problems that have been developing quietly for years. Before we continue, let me know in the comments. Have you ever experienced numbness, burning, swelling, or unexplained foot pain? And if you find practical health information helpful, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos. Now let's begin with the first warning sign. It's one of the most common symptoms I see, and almost everyone explains it away. Tingling, numbness. That familiar pins and needles feeling in the feet. Most people assume their foot simply fell asleep. But what if that's not the whole story? The first warning sign is one of the most overlooked symptoms of elevated blood sugar. Tingling, numbness, or that strange pins and needles sensation that seems to come and go without explanation. Almost every patient says the same thing. Doctor, my foot just falls asleep sometimes. And occasionally, that's true. But when numbness starts happening regularly, especially without a clear reason, that's when I become concerned. Here's why. Inside your body are millions of nerves carrying messages between your brain and your feet. Think of those nerves like electrical wires running through your house. Each wire has a protective coating around it. That coating allows signals to travel smoothly and accurately. But when blood sugar stays elevated for months or years, it slowly begins damaging that protective layer. The wire still works, but not as well. Signals become distorted. Messages become unclear, and that confusion often shows up as tingling or numbness. I explain it to my patients this way. Imagine pouring a small amount of acid onto an electrical wire every day. Not enough to destroy it immediately, just enough to slowly wear away the insulation. At first, nothing seems wrong, but eventually the signal becomes unreliable. That's exactly what high blood sugar can do to your nerves. And here's the frightening part. This damage often develops long before a person is officially diagnosed with diabetes. In fact, peripheral neuropathy is one of the earliest warning signs doctors look for. Millions of Americans are experiencing these symptoms right now, and assuming they're simply getting older. They're not asking questions. They're not getting tested. And because of that, the damage continues quietly in the background. The good news? You can start protecting those nerves today. One of the best habits I recommend is a simple daily walk. Not running. Not intense exercise. Just a 20 to 30-minute walk every day. Walking improves circulation, helps your muscles use glucose more effectively, and supports healthy nerve function. I also encourage patients to begin reducing added sugars immediately. Not next month, not after the holidays. Today. Because every day matters. Now let's move to the second warning sign. And this one often frightens people because it usually appears when they're trying to sleep. The room is quiet, the house is still, and suddenly it feels like their feet are on fire. Now let's talk about the second warning sign. And this is one that many patients describe as the most frustrating of all, because it doesn't bother them during the day. It shows up at night, right when they're trying to sleep. They'll tell me, "Doctor, my feet feel like they're burning," or, "It feels like someone put a heating pad under my feet." At first, they blame the weather. They blame fatigue. They blame spending too much time on their feet. And sometimes those explanations are correct. But when that burning sensation keeps returning, especially at night, I start thinking about nerve damage. Here's what's happening. When nerves become damaged by elevated blood sugar, they don't always stop working. Sometimes they become overactive. Instead of sending normal signals, they begin sending false alarms. Your brain receives a message that says, heat, even though nothing hot is touching your foot. I explain it this way. Imagine a fire alarm with a faulty sensor. The building isn't on fire. Nothing dangerous is happening. But the alarm keeps going off because the sensor itself is damaged. That's exactly what diabetic nerve damage can do. The burning sensation isn't coming from outside your body. It's coming from nerves that are no longer sending accurate information. And unfortunately, many people experience this symptom for years before they ever receive a diabetes diagnosis. Now here's a simple habit that can help. Drink more water. Most adults are walking around mildly dehydrated. Proper hydration supports circulation, helps the kidneys process excess glucose, and provides important support for nerve health. I also encourage adding more fiber to every meal. Vegetables, beans, oats, whole grains. Fiber slows the rise of blood sugar after eating and reduces stress on those vulnerable nerves. Now let's move to the third warning sign, because this is where things stop being uncomfortable and start becoming dangerous. This is the sign that sends more patients to emergency rooms than almost any other foot-related diabetes symptom. A small blister, a tiny cut, a scrape from a shoe, and weeks later, it's still there. Patients often tell me, "Doctor, I thought it would heal on its own." Most small wounds do heal on their own, but not when blood sugar remains elevated. When diabetes damages blood vessels, oxygen and nutrients can no longer reach wounds efficiently. The body's repair system slows down, and that tiny blister suddenly becomes something much more serious. Think about trying to water a garden through a hose that's badly kinked. The water exists, it just can't reach the flowers. The same thing happens inside your feet. Your blood contains everything needed to heal. But poor circulation prevents those healing ingredients from reaching the wound. And that's where danger begins. Because an open wound is an open invitation for infection. If you notice a cut, blister, or sore that isn't improving, don't ignore it. Inspect your feet every evening. Look between your toes. Check your heels. And if a wound isn't improving after a couple of days, contact your healthcare provider. The sooner it's addressed, the easier it is to treat. And now we're about to discuss a warning sign that's hiding in plain sight. A sign you can actually see with your own eyes every single day. Most people notice it. Almost nobody understands what it means. Now let's talk about the fourth warning sign. Because this one is hiding in plain sight. Most people see it every day. And almost nobody realizes it could be connected to blood sugar. I'm talking about changes in skin color around the feet and ankles. Patients often tell me, "Doctor, I think it's just aging." Or, "My ankles have always looked like that." And sometimes they're right. But there is a specific pattern that gets my attention. Darkening around the ankles, a reddish appearance, sometimes even a bluish tint. These changes can be early clues that circulation isn't working the way it should. Here's why. Your blood carries oxygen and nutrients to every part of your body. Think of it as a delivery truck, and your feet are at the very end of the longest delivery route. When blood vessels become damaged from years of elevated blood sugar, deliveries start arriving late. Less oxygen reaches the skin, less nutrition reaches the tissue, and eventually the skin begins changing color. It's a visible distress signal. Your body is showing you that circulation may be compromised. Sometimes the skin also becomes thinner and more fragile. Another clue that the tissue isn't receiving what it needs. One simple habit can help. Every morning, spend 5 minutes moving your ankles and feet. Ankle circles, toe raises, calf stretches. Nothing complicated. Just enough movement to encourage blood flow into the lower legs and feet. And if sitting for long periods is part of your day, elevate your feet whenever possible. Small habits create meaningful changes over time. Now let's move to warning sign number 5. And this one surprises almost everyone.